basically I couldn't walk when I was meant to, and neither could she. And we had a lot of sort of joint and bone issues. And and then later on, I got cancer once, and then it came back a couple years ago again. And it was after that experience that I think I became more ready to write this book. But I'm just going to share some of my thought process. So because I've always, had hip issues and I walked with a limp, um, I always suspected that there were environmental influences there, like conditions in how we treat the earth and how that relates to our own health and well being. But I could never find any medical professional that would validate that. And so one moment that was quite big for me was when I was in Australia, and I just happened through some conferences and such to become friends with Michael Denborough. And he was a surgeon, and he was also in the anti-nuclear party, um, Physicians Against Nuclear War. But he created a political party and he ran it in the Australian parliament, and he won. He had a seat as a member of the MP for the anti-nuclear party. And he validated for me that yes, people that have been exposed to radiation um, do develop health issues such as cancer or different kinds of things related to bones and joints. And so that was validating for me. And then after having a surgery at the Jewish General Hospital, I just happened to meet another man, another Michael there, who was a doctor. And he also was in Physicians Against Nuclear War. And he is a social activist. And he also confirmed that for me. And one day I was teaching a class at City University in Langford, BC. It was a master's level counseling class. And I'd just been thinking about, I'd had my third hip surgery recently. And the students were coming in, and there was a woman, she was coming in, and she was on crutches. And I had just seen a documentary about surgery or medical tourism where people go to other countries to get operations. And so I just made a joke. I said, "Oh, did you just come from India, like getting a hip replacement?" And she said, "Yeah, actually I did." And it was just kind of that funny moment because I just called it. And then she heard my lecture. I was talking about these kinds of things, Indigenous lands, nuclear colonialism, and such. And afterwards, she came up to me and she said, "My mother is from Uranium City." And I said, "Really?" Like that was the first kind of other person from that community. And I asked her if she had her family had these illnesses or conditions all her life. And she said yes. And so we kind of connected over that. But those were like a few instances in more recent decades that affirmed for me that something could be wrong with me that was connected to uranium and radiation and the arms race, that kind of thing. So now more than ever, I'm looking to Indigenous land protectors and water protectors, and just really interested to see how, when we fight or struggle to keep the waters clean and the land pure, and to try to keep mining and extractivism happening in an ethical and responsible way, if it's going to happen, or else not at all. um, I see Indigenous people being labeled as terrorists, or also as more and more unwell. And so I just want to read a little bit of the introduction to this book. So I wrote, "Nowhere in the texts on counseling, recovery, or lifespan development does it make links between well-being and not having your land stolen. More likely, you will find Indigenous people portrayed as people with disease, trauma, and hopelessness. If there are links made between feeling unwell in the present and events of the past, it's likely that the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people will be cast as having a victim personality, as being stuck in the past, or having even brain damage. In fact, many Indigenous women are given the diagnosis of borderline personality disorder, which is ironic since we exist in the borderlands between traditional cultures and settler society. When an entire people are generally portrayed as mentally ill, because that is, of course, what it means to have a diagnosis of clinical depression, anxiety, or post traumatic stress disorder, it's easy for the state to view these people as unfit to manage their lives. Then all sorts of functions are performed on Indigenous families, according to what um, Nick Todd and Alan Wade referred to as the colonial code of relations. Thank you, Alan, of the helping professions. So these victim blaming formulations lead to Indigenous parents having their children removed by state protection services, as well as being denied all sorts of opportunities associated with full citizenship. In the past, casting Indigenous people as unfit by state and church was a pretext for removing land and giving it to the preferred population of white settlers of European origin. Drawing from my experience as a therapist, a social work instructor, a child protection family advocate, and an activist, this book provides an analysis of the state violence that deliberately destabilized sovereign Indigenous communities and stole from them almost everything of value. So um, it's against this backdrop that Indigenous people today struggle and sometimes succeed in reclaiming their Indigenous spirit. Look at Vicky, their identity, their language, their customs, their worldview, and stolen children. Um, I use the metaphor of the mountain, not as a symbol of colonial power, but rather as a challenge that inhibits the ease of forward motion. A mountain can be viewed and described and analyzed, but also with planning and strength, be ascended, crossed, transcended. Indeed, the interaction with Earth is an important part of the process from the point of view that we are nature, we're not just in it. So I'll go on. But some of the things that really struck me in my research were things like what was going on in Australia, with the Kakadu protests against uranium mining there. And then in my research, finding that the British actually dropped an atomic bomb in the desert in Australia where Indigenous people were living and knew they were there and didn't care and dropped it anyway. And so looking at these situations across the globe, and certainly if you look at the area in the Ukraine around Chernobyl today, you can see people live there and they go there. And the rates of cancer in these communities is really astronomical. So the more personal part of this book, I use some of my own story as an example of the points I'm trying to make. And one of the things that I talk about in terms of counseling and supporting people is how we talk about this thing, this disease, or whatever it is that invades our body or that comes into our being and we have to deal with. So I talked about the use of metaphor and how um, it was so prevalent that everybody talked about fighting cancer and defeating it and you can beat this. And there were lots of very actually aggressive or violent metaphors, sort of like you're at war with your own cells. And that didn't really work for me. So I talked about developing and exploring gentler metaphors where we can be in partnership with our body, with our healing, with the chemo drugs that we're taking, with our doctors if we want to be, with the healers, and just that there are different ways to talk about it. And I found a lot of writing, mainly by women who were in recovery, and I just thought that was more helpful. So what I wanted to do was find a different way to look at what I was going through. So I used the metaphor of being a pilgrim on the Camino de Compostela in northern Spain. So you can walk from southern France all across to Compostela, to the Church of Saint James, where one of Christ's disciples was meant to have been. And it can take you, I don't know, like a month or 3 months, depending on how fast you go. But every day you stop and you stay at a lodge and you see different things, and the nature, everything is different every day of the trek. And so every day, every time I would go to the hospital, for me, it was a new day on my trek. And I would follow on the internet people that were hiking, and I'd say, okay, today I'm in this beautiful little town where there's a fountain and it spouts red wine. And that's what I'm doing today. I'm really enjoying this. So I map my journey in another way. And that's the kind of thing I want to do with my clients. And I just spoke to somebody very recently who is ill, and we used a metaphor from Vicki Reynolds' work. It's called peopling the room. So before you go into surgery, you imagine that you're redecorating the surgery room, and you get to decide who's going to be in there with you, your loved ones, your pets, your ancestors, where they'll be positioned, what the smells will be like. And you just imagine filling the room with flowers or rock posters or whatever it is that you like. And so it's to reclaim the space so that when you go in, you actually feel really safe and cared for. So these are some of the ways that I talk about working with illness and supporting people through that. So just before I stop talking and open it up a little bit, I wanted just to read the acknowledgments from my book, because they're actually part of the book, and they speak more to like where my mind is at than actually just thanking the other people. But you'll know if you know my writing around response-based practice and all my work with Alan Wade and Linda Coates and Shelley Dean. We've found that the most important thing for people who are facing adversity is that they receive positive social responses when they reach out for help, when they disclose what's going on for them. And these are the most healing aspects that are available to us. Uh, Alan did some work around contesting the diagnosis of Stockholm syndrome, and Christine and Mark, who had been held hostage in the bank at Norrmalmstorg in Stockholm. And when she came out, she said something like, I just wanted someone to hold me for a long time and tell me I did a good job. And so that's what I tell my students, like, that's the healing medicine, something like that, right? Not telling people there's something wrong with their mind. So I would like to express my gratitude to the people who helped me heal, my children who kept me here, my partner Isaac, who slept beside me on the hospital floor so I wouldn't be alone, my mom Greta and sister Judy, and Janine for coming to Montreal to take care of me. Pretty special colleague, eh? Thank you, Alan Wade, for pushing me around Sweden in a wheelchair when I couldn't walk. Thank you for your healing practices, Rita Davis, Laura Fenton, Vicki Boldo, Lauren Young, to helpers, Kaylee McIntosh for editing, Donnie, Ricky, Sharon Bond, Vicki Reynolds, Sandrina DeFinney for your reviews. And thanks, Vicki Boldo and Mo Clark, for sharing your stories and helping to design a gorgeous cover. To all my friends, thank you for your friendship, which is a wonderful healing medicine. And to my dad, who was rooting for me on the other side. And I just wanted to say that in that experience of illness, I really got to feel Indigenous practices, like the culture and how it works. Because when Janine came to stay with me, she brought all this love and good cheer from the West Coast. And so what that means is, they took up a collection, which is what we do in Indigenous communities, but I'd never seen such a, you know, group kindness like that. And so people, even that I didn't even know from the university, she came with all this money to buy food and take care of me, and then throw a feast at the end of her stay for my family, and just other things that were very like traditional and to the heart, the way that we come together. and support one another when we can. So that was really something. And I dedicate the book to everyone who sees cancer as a political issue linked to our destruction of the environment, our compromised sources of food, water, and land. The personal is political and ecological. To dear friend, comrade, and ferocious freedom fighter Angela Hartwig, who inspired us with her gentle might and her fierce humor. Amandala Oetu. So we lost Angela to cancer a few months ago and still haven't recovered from that if we ever will. To everyone who engages in earth care, who protects lands and waters and rights for Indigenous peoples. So now I would like to introduce Janine Carrier, and she's my Métis sister from British Columbia and co-author for many books, and she is going to offer some reflections. Thanks, Janine.
Hi. Tanse everyone. Tanse Kinyuaskeo Squeo. My name is. I'm so honored to be here. My Cree name is Sokiaski Esqueo, which means strong earth woman. I don't feel particularly strong right now, quite emotional. And I'm speaking to you from the territory of the Cowichan peoples. I think where my family resides, we're on the Malahat Nation lands, but in this beautiful territory of Central Vancouver Island, where I was blessed to meet Cathy. And I've told this story a few times, but it just always struck me how, someone thought that Cathy and I might get along. And I went over to Cathy's for tea in Cowichan Bay, realized we were just a couple of miles from each other. And she served me bananas and bran muffins. And and that was the start of a very long, dear sisterhood between us. And when Cathy got sick, I thought I was very scared. I have to say, I was very scared. And the people here, as Cathy described, kindly put together these medicine baskets. And I told my partner, Neil, I'm going to Montreal, and I don't know how long I'm going to be, but I have to be with Cathy. And away I went. And, anyone who's been from Victoria to Montreal knows that you might as well go to New Zealand, but it was it was a long day, but throughout the miles, I was preparing myself. And what I found when I got to Montreal was not a person who had given up by any stretch. The strength that Cathy was carrying was incredible to me. And I went to one of her treatments with her, or a couple, I can't remember how many. And it was remarkable to see that amazing strength. And I knew the ancestors were with her and that they would leave her with us for as long as she has the ability to give us that beautiful spirit that she carries. And that wasn't her time. And I think I drove Isaac a little bit crazy with my my kitchen cleaning and my cooking, ordering him around. So, my apologies, Isaac, for doing that. And I felt such an honor to be carrying those medicines from the people who love Cathy so dearly here. And so we miss you every day, Cathy, but I'm so happy that we've been able to continue working together, and that you're just here in all of your glory. And Kisakihitin, Cathy, I love you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Janine. John, you wanted to facilitate some questions, discussion, or?
Yep, I'm just checking to make sure my video and microphone were on. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. Raise your hand.
Or reflections. You might just want to share a thought or two. It's fine.
Sure.
So,
This is the time that we're opening it up to everybody here.
or we could let people introduce themselves too. That's another cool thing we could do.
Oh, that's an idea. Okay, well, let's go from left to right on the picture screen here. So I'll go first. I'm John Charlton. I'm the publisher, the editor, the desktop publisher, everything and anything. I love working with Janine and Cathy and all the other authors. I tried hiving stuff off, letting other people do some things, but I hated it. By the time I'm finished as a publisher working with these authors, it's more in a business relationship. It's more than a colleague. It's solidly on the friend side of the line. So I can't let a little piece of it go, other than printing, because I've been told if I go out and buy $100,000 printer, I'm in trouble. So that's about the only thing I've given up. So with that, I guess we can skip over Cathy and Janine and we'll go right to Vicky.
Well, I don't know. We could skip over me. Yeah, I'm speechless. I'm really emotional in seeing everybody who's here because I know so many of these faces and how I've had like just the pleasure and the privilege and honor of working with some of you, and I know what you mean to Cathy in her life and her heart. And Janine, I thank you for when you came out and for those words that you shared, because we're really fortunate to have Cathy out here with us. And so thank you for sharing. And yeah.
All right, Liz, did you want to say anything?
I was really excited to see the title of your book, Cathy, because I don't know if you remember that when we published your paper in Murmurations, and I was quite involved in that, I also had a paper, and my mother is Welsh, so that my paper in the previous edition had been called Picturing the Graig, and Graig in Welsh means mountain. And I had a paper published in the same the same edition of Murmurations as you, and mine was about the fact that my partner had cancer and was going to die, and that I had cancer too. So I feel a sort of real connection with you, which is why I'm here tonight.
Okay. Cheryl, did you want to say anything? You'll need to turn your mic on.
Never quite get used to this. I'm Cheryl Henry, and I am on the honored to live and work on the unceded territories in the Coast Salish, especially in the Cowichan lands. And I've known Cathy, I think, since the early 2000s, when we all jumped into an office in downtown Duncan. And we have hung out, we've danced together, we've sang together, we've done ceremony together. We have worked together on a couple of different projects. We're working on a project right now. And actually, we started this project when Cathy was on her way to Europe. And so we did long distance, crazy time frames, putting this project together. And also Janine works on the project as well. And so we've done a lot of things. We've done a lot of heart sharing. And yeah, Cathy, you are an inspiration. You have always been like 5 people in one body, and each one of you is beautiful. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate you in my world, and how much I miss not being able to just go up the hill and around the corner and sit in your living room and to listen to the musicians, or to gab our hearts away, or to talk work and life and work, of course. I think is our sharing, our giving back to community. And so in Western world, it's separated from our spirit, but in our Indigenous world, it's not. And so I'm so honored and blessed to be able to share you in my life, and to celebrate this with you. I seem to miss these all the time. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I look forward to seeing in person one of these days when this crazy thing is over. And I love you.
Thanks, Cheryl. I'd just like to invite Mo to share, because I know she has to go at 4:45 or something, and Mo had offered to.
I can stay till 5.
Oh,
So-
okay. So we'll leave you for a few minutes. Okay.
All right. The pictures here are jumping around on me. So Isaac, shall we pick on you? Do you want to introduce yourself?
Okay.
Oh,
I'm not yes, village. It's hard to get good Wi-Fi. Could you hear me?
we can now, or at least I can.
Okay. There's it's so moving to be here with so many people that into her life and relationships she's built while here in Montreal. It's quite a wonderful model. Would that be better? Yeah, I'm going to go to the other computer. Cathy's on a different Wi-Fi, as it turns out. So for me, it's just great to see all of your wonderful faces and the relationships that Cathy has made while here. It's been astonishing for me to see her bring people into her circle so fully. And when we were in the hospital, there was a time when she was moved from a large room by herself with no other patients in it, to a room that was a small room, really small and stark, old. And at a point early on in that room, Natasha, her friend Natasha, and her husband Mutang came, and they came with blankets, beautiful, beautiful blankets with wonderful patterns.
Persian
and
rugs.
Persian rugs, and they draped the whole room. It was like, it was just a wonderful, I can remember what a gift that was to have the room transformed, and they brought wonderful food too. And so, but I'm always amazed at Cathy's moving mountains to do so much good work in the world. On coming to Montreal, for me, it's just been so remarkable and moving, and you're such a great model, Cathy, for what you take on and accomplish. And
Thanks.
we're all
Okay.
celebrating with you,
Yeah.
dear one.
Thank you.
All right. Christina, did you want to say something from, I believe you're in Sweden? You need to turn on your microphone, sorry.
That's right. I'm in Stockholm, in Sweden right now. And it's lovely to be part of this event, Cathy, with all your friends. I'm very proud that you are my cousin. We discovered each other in the early 80s. So that was an adventure. And we have been collaborating in Victoria on Vancouver Island I think it's 20 years ago now. I'm glad to be here and I'm looking forward to see you in real life. Love you, Cathy.
Thank you. Hopefully, I'm going to apologize. I'm probably going to mispronounce some names here. Edemas? You'll need to turn on your microphone.
Did you say, what did you say? I think it was my name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay. My name is Lise Demers.
Oh, all right. Sorry.
That's okay. It's okay. I'm in Quebec, obviously. Yes, and I'm an Anishinaabe. And I met, Cathy, we met about 4 years ago, and you've touched me deeply, and I can't wait to buy the book. Congratulations and miigwech.
All right. Zena, am I pronouncing that right? I'm not, am I?
Yeah, it's perfect. Zena, I'm so happy to be here and so happy to see Cathy, Isaac, Vicky, Mo, and all the friends. Cathy is a precious person. I come from Lebanon, and being in Montreal, Montreal was a blessing only because I was surrounded by this very special circle of Indigenous women. And Cathy was always that solid ground where we all connect and we all feel safe. And I learned a lot from being with and around Cathy. And as I just wrote a couple of seconds ago, I'm looking forward to read your book and attempt to climb that mountain. Keep on bringing us all together. I was happy also to listen to Vicky, who has brought a lot of positive energy and warmth and caring for all of us. So I can't wait. I can't wait to hug you, Cathy.
Okay, thank you. Daniel.
Yes, thank you. I'm Daniel Saleh. I'm the School of Community. I'm the principal of the School of Community and Public Affairs. I'm in fact the unit head where Cathy works. And I'm very proud to be here. I'm very proud to be Cathy's colleague. I'm very proud to have you as a colleague. You joined the school 3 years ago, and I'm very glad that we have you as a colleague. Now that I've heard you speak about your book and heard you speak, I heard other people also speak about you, speak about your book, speak about your journey and all that. I like you even more. I like even more to have you as a colleague. So thank you very much for your work, for your contribution to the School Community and Public Affairs for the First People Studies program, and keep on going. Thank you very much. That's all I wanted to say.
I hope you found this video informative. To watch the full-length version, consider subscribing to my Substack account by clicking the link in the description, where I will be sharing interviews, publications, and lectures related to counseling, social work, and Indigenous knowledges.